Chronicles.
What's good, fam? I'd like to welcome y'all to Brown Boy Chronicles, experiencing stories of 3 first-gen brown boys and 1 foreigner/immigrant brown boy just out here growing up in the States. We'd like for you to join in our challenges, our come-ups, our glow-ups, our struggles, and just overall our lives. We hope y'all enjoy.
Is your drive right now is to just like you have these ideas and you want to see how far they go, or is it more so capital? Like, is it more money oriented, or right now it's just like more so like you want to see?
First off, are you able to talk about what you're building right now? Because I don't think we've actually gotten into that.
Yes, I can.
Okay, so that will give the audience a better idea of like, what your drive.
Yeah. So, my business is in crypto. I have a co-founder who is the CEO, and I am the CTO. And we are building copy finance. So it is wills for your crypto assets. Essentially, like if you hold like your own if you custody your own assets in crypto, if you die, basically like nothing happens to it, right? Like if you have, let's say, $100,000 in a couple of different tokens in your Ethereum wallet, the only way that anyone can recover it is if they find your seed phrase, and that is like a very flimsy way to do inheritance or anything like that. So if you get hit by a bus, like your inheritors are kind of fucked. And if you think about this from like a traditional aspect, right? Like if you go to a bank, they actually own your cash. You don't own your cash, right? The bank has some number in some system that says, this much is owned by Harvey, right? So if like Harvey, if you were married and you were to get hit by a bus, like your wife could go to the thing with your death certificate. They would like confirm it with the coroner's office or whatever, and the bank can just transfer those assets to your wife. But in crypto, that is not the case, right? Like nobody has access to that money other than you through your seed phrase. So tying like $100,000 to like a fucking piece of paper with your phrase written on it is incredibly dangerous. So we basically made a way to transfer the assets peer to peer with like after like you sign a contract with us. And that's like the product that we build.
That's actually a really smart idea.
Has anyone ever told you sound like Sal Khan? Khan Academy?
No, my voice is actually kind of fucked up right now. I was like out last night, like I was like celebrating our like recent raise. So my voice is a little bit fucked up. So I usually sound a little bit more high pitched and annoying.
So where did this idea like how did the inception of this idea come about? Like how did you like deconstruct
personal problem for me and my co-founder, right? My co-founder is married, and Harvey, you actually met him. His name is Karthik. You met him.
Yeah. We went on a hike together.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we went on a hike together too. Shoot, I forgot about that. Yeah, we went to Reams,
and then we got donuts afterwards. Yeah.
And Reams.
And Reams.
Place. That place is fire. Oh my god. Yeah. Holy shit, I love that place. But anyway,
Mediterranean food.
Yeah, personal problem for him. Karthik's wife isn't into crypto much, and he holds a lot of his net worth in crypto. And he was just kind of like, yeah, man, there's literally nothing that would happen if I were to die. Like she would just lose like a significant portion of my wealth. And I had been into like the crypto space a decent amount, just like because of all the developer attention into it. And I actually really like the idea of like what it's doing for the world. So I've been like looking really deeply into it, and I realized it was a massive problem. So I just like went fucking all in and started building as fast as I could. And me and Karthik just did that, built out a prototype, raised some cash, and now we're keeping on building, growing customers. We have a product out. So yeah.
The thing about the crypto world is like, you don't know what's real, what's fake yet. I feel like there's like, obviously like the decentralization is real, but like there's so many projects out right now. It's like, it's just right now it's living off hype. And I don't really see like actual evidence to anything. Like obviously Bitcoin's up to like what, 70K, but it's just like at the end of the day, just a shit ton of people holding.
And before you answer that, Samraaj, so my whole like view on crypto is, yes, it's at the end of the day, it's like kind of art. So it's just perceived value. What I think of it versus what you think of it, that's just like how everything is. But until U.S. government says we are going to accept this, and until at the end of the day, if U.S. wanted to, they could just ban crypto, and then it's not a legal tender anymore. So
no, they can't ban it anymore.
Well, but go on.
They can, not with this many people in it.
Yeah. So okay, that's kind of like one of the points I wanted to make is more about like if you look at where the capital is coming from.
Yeah, isn't that the whole point of decentralization? So it can't be restricted by...
it can't be stopped by the government in that type of way. And there's a lot of like online protocols and everything like that that run based on like decentralization. So I mean, like it's here to stay whether we like it or not. And the other thing is about government is the amount of high power venture capital that has been distributed into these systems is absurd, right? Like Andreessen Horowitz and Sequoia and these other firms have distributed like billions and billions of dollars into these, and they distributed that money into infrastructure, not into tokens. So which means the only way that they'll see returns on their money is if like the space itself takes off in a certain way, right? It's not like around hype. And that's one of the things that convinced me to like put my eggs into that basket is like, yo, this much capital is flowing into this comparative to every other space. And it's also really, really dope from a technical perspective about what it could actually empower for people. And from that, like there's enough pressure from like the VC and the rich people standpoint that like the government's not going to have an incentive to like shut it down. They're going to have to work with it. And the other thing is like, yeah, like it makes sense for the web to work in this way, right? Like, why wouldn't you have ownership of your own data? Why wouldn't you have ownership of your online identity? Like, it makes complete sense for you. Like, why would Facebook have full ownership of like this random bullshit in your life? Why would TikTok own all these type of things? Like, web worked like that because they had access to the infrastructure to empower it. But now we all have so much computing power in our pockets. Like, our phones have more power than the first rockets to the moons. And we could run these things on our own and actually custody everything ourselves and really have ownership of our own data. And that empowers basically every like web experience to work in a very different way. And just from a developer perspective, it's very, very exciting.
Yeah, so this is like a good segue into like the metaverse.
Oh yeah. Before we get to that, so I guess this more, I want you to kind of explain a little bit more about currency then, because back in the day, the dollar was backed by gold. You know, you had X amount of gold, and that's just like how much the dollar is based off. Now, I think it was Nixon or something. They changed that, and I don't know like what the dollar is backed by now. So essentially, when I say it's like perceived value, how do you retain this value? Because eventually,
but the dollar is also perceived value.
Yeah,
like, it's like everything, all currency in this world, it's a piece of paper, and everybody has just like associated that, yo, this is worth this much, and like. Also, now I don't think there is anything that really truly backs it up, like how gold was. That's fact. Like that shit doesn't exist anymore.
It doesn't exist like that anymore. And also the other thing is I am not an economist. I'm not a micro, macro, fucking medium, whatever it's called, economist. I am just a builder, right? Like, so if you're looking for like a really eloquent, like technical answer about this type of stuff, that I'm not the person for it, right? Like, I like am more so like in the technology side of things, and from the technology side of things, it empowers a ton. Right. And that is even separable from just like the crypto like aspect of it, or like the currency aspect of it. Right. And the real difference is like ever since the advent of technology, stuff and systems should have been working in this way, but there's too much legacy in the way. Right. So now we have the ability to transfer in this type of way. And like blockchain is the thing that actually empowers it to happen. Does that make sense?
Gotcha. No, I mean, the only reason I asked you that is because I thought, that would be the first thing that would come to my mind. The way I operate is like how I just think of the negatives first. I'm completely different from what you think about, like how you perceive optimism. I'm like more of a cynical person first, and that's just it's not a good mindset to have, but that's just like how I operate. And when I think of like crypto and all, like the idea of crypto, I just think so much is by default over by the man, like the government, whatever they say has to, be absolute. And I know we're trying to shift the power to the people. So I don't have that much trust when it comes to the power of people, because ultimately people just want to feel secure, and government makes you feel secure in a way. So
it does. Yeah. So, I mean, I would think about it less so from just the government being able to empower things, or government being able to say like, yes, this is stable, or yes, this is, or no, this is not stable. And I would think more of it allowing people to pool their money together towards initiatives a lot more easily than previous markets, right? Like, for example, I'm in a position right now. By the way, I'm a shitty investor, so don't take any of my stuff as investment advice. But like I'm a fucking terrible investor, so like I like to build things. That's my thing, right? But I'm in this position right now for.
I mean, you're invested in real estate. That's one of the best investments you could possibly make.
Hey man, you could lose a lot of money real quick in real estate too. So I'll tell you that. but I'm in this position right now for a token called Klima, Klima, and it's doing something really, really fascinating. Essentially, do you know how like the carbon bond market works at all?
No.
You know any of about this type of stuff? Okay, so essentially, like there's emission taxes that the government puts onto companies that emit a lot of carbon, right? Like motor companies or anything like that, right? And the carbon tax raises every single year, so the company have to pay a lot more out, so that we end up having less reliance on carbon, right? Good initiative by the government. It needs to happen faster. And the second thing is like green companies are awarded something called a carbon credit. So a carbon credit, like let's say you're producing solar power or like fucking windmills or something like that, right? The government basically says like, okay, here are carbon credits that you get for doing this green activity. And then people can sell these carbon credits to companies that owe carbon taxes, and they don't have to pay those taxes. So it's an incentive for the government to say like, hey, capital can flow directly from companies that are producing carbon to companies that are greener. So it's a great thing, right? And actually Tesla, I think they make most of their revenue through carbon credits or carbon bonds, right? So it's a massive market. And the rich people used to do this, be able to do this thing where they started a company that literally would buy carbon off of the market and toss it into a carbon black hole, so it never gets emitted. And they're awarded carbon credits based on the amount of carbon they buy off, right? And normally this was only an action that is able to be done by somebody with a shit ton of capital who could set up this organization, buy a lot of carbon, and then just resell it. And now what Klima does is they have pooled, like basically all the token holders stake it and they pool their capital together to do this action as a group of individuals rather than a single person. So basically, in my opinion, it's given access to these opportunities to people that like would otherwise not have access to it. And essentially, like what happens is like the organization, when you stake your token, they keep on buying carbon with that, and it's incredible for the environment. And they're basically raising the price of carbon by doing this. So companies have to pay a lot more for that carbon, and they make a profit off of selling those credits, which are distributed to token holders. So right now, I have my Klima staked. I think I make 8.3% ROI a week, which is insanity. Right? Like APY is usually good at 8%, but I'm making that a week. It's insane. Like it makes no sense to me. But I mean, the token is inherently inflationary because they keep on minting more of it as they buy more carbon because it's pegged to the price of carbon. So it's going to go down in value over time, but it's just insane to me how like much like interest can like compound in this like space.
I have another question. I wanted to pick your brain apart. You talk about you talk about ownership. What?
You picked my brain apart.
Yeah, I'm about to give you a lobotomy. So how much you talk about ownership, power to the people. How much do you really think people, when I think of people that, I don't know, like what percentage of people do you think like being like independent versus how many do you think are like being told? Because that's what I like. I think most of like the world revolves around people being told what to do, and that's just like how operations work. And now
I'll tell you this: the people who like being told what to do won't listen to me in the first place. So like,
yeah, I think we're surrounded around a circle that like to like just be on their own and not. And I agree with Lucky. I think there is a lot of people in society that like do need structure. They need to be told. But I feel like so much of our circle, we don't see that in our circle. So we kind of like have this like false like imagination of what like that, like, yo, that doesn't, those people don't exist. Cause that's how I feel.
No. I mean, I think those people do exist. I mean, like that is by far a majority of the population works that way. And the thing is like, I would love for as many people to go into entrepreneurship and building and taking agency of their own stuff as possible. Because I mean, that's theoretically the best thing possible for the economy is people taking ownership and actually like, being able to build things that net influence like the well-being of our society. Like that is theoretically the best. And I mean, a lot of people won't do it, and those people won't be listening to me anyway, right? If I could give all this advice, or say, hey, you should go and do this. But if you like being told what to do, this isn't for you, right? Like at the end of the day, like this type of stuff isn't for you. So that's just the way I think about things. Like,
do you think too much ownership's a bad thing, where it's like everyone's like owns all their like stuff, so it's harder for people to use, like other people to use or distribute in a sense, whereas I think that could be, not everyone has that knowledge to distribute what they own kind of.
I think it really just comes down to like user experiences, right? Like being able to like say, hey, you are allowed to access this data about me, I think is always a good thing. But it really just comes down to like really having like a really innate understanding of like, what your allowing company needs to do, right? There's no reason that Facebook should own all this like crazy ass like ad data about like who I am. There's no reason that the medical system should own all of my fucking medical information about like my blood levels or like my like weight or like, all this stuff about the disease. Why the fuck can't I go into like any medical clinic and just transfer that stuff automatically? It's just because like these companies own that. I don't own that, right? There's all these like different types of ownership of data that should be relegated to the individuals. And in terms of difficulty, I think that just comes down to making a really unbeatable user experience and giving each person like each company like the ability to build something great. And since the data isn't owned by them, if the experience is bad, somebody else will pop up and people will go towards that. It's capitalism, right?
Yo, so in terms of all right, so like going to like the metaverse and like Web3 and all that stuff, do you think there will be an increase in ownership, or you think this eventually will lead to a decrease in ownership?
Wait, before we even talk to that, what is the metaverse? So I didn't get a chance to like should we like talk about that? Like kind of give a little.
I could talk about this like a decent amount.
To me, it's just like a video game in real life, man. Like it's just digital world
I think it's a little bit different, right? So I mean, okay, so basically for like context, Facebook changed its name to Meta, right? Like, and they rallied around a different vision of building something called the metaverse, right? And Mark Zuckerberg with his alien ass.
Zuck is trying to create a better human connection.
Yes.
No, he's not. He's basically fucking.
That's his mission. No, okay.
So,
that's his mission.
That is his mission. Yeah. So okay.
It is okay. It might be his mission, but literally by him saying his company name is Meta, he's basically already saying the metaverse is here, and it's like they're driving.
He's gonna essentially have ownership of it.
But it's been here. But like they took ownership of that name basically for that reason, because everyone's gonna be calling it the metaverse, and fucking he's gonna take credit for the drive.
Okay, I think so. There's like a couple of different things about like this name change and like vision change, and I'll start with like the most like practical, and we'll go to the most like philosophical. From a practical standpoint, Facebook has already like achieved what they set up to, like their vision, right? Their vision was to connect the entire world through tech, which they have done, right? Like people at Facebook, like everyone is fucking on Facebook, everyone's mom, for better or for worse, like they're all there, and from that perspective, they need to change their vision. And also, everyone fucking hates Facebook, right? Like, and Instagram and all this type of stuff. Every journalist article about Instagram is terrible. Every like government hearing about it is terrible. And Facebook's entire strategy previously was to basically just buy up all of the competition, right? Like Facebook doesn't doing well. They acquire WhatsApp, they acquire Instagram, and they're basically able to serve to a different market, like the younger market. But now Instagram is going out of fashion too, right? Like all like boomers are on Instagram. All of like our mom, my grandma's on Instagram, right? Like it's going to go out of fashion real quick, bro. Like we're at the top of the problem right now.
I was watching an interview, right? And he was like, whatever, like how he's like the creative was like from human connection, right? It started with text first. Oh, we could talk to each other. We could post on each other's text. Then it went to photo. So like, Instagram, all that's became about. Yeah. Then now it's kind of like in that like video phase. Like, you know what I mean? You're sharing stories through video. TikTok is obviously they got this peak Instagram, right now.
Yeah.
And now we're kind of moving to this next, the Web3.
So exactly. So my thing is right. Everyone's like mom and grandma's on Instagram now. It's going to go out of fashion really fucking quick. And previously Facebook's strategy here was to just acquire the next thing, but there are a lot of monopoly laws and people hate Facebook. The government will never let Facebook acquire another company in this type of way, which means that their next position has to come internally, right?
I mean, they acquired Oculus, and that's kind of like where they're taking this whole.
Exactly. And that's basically how they've hedged their bet. But in order to actually make that something accepted, they have to build it internally. So they had to like do this vision change in order to like change it to what is next, not what's now. That's one thing. The second thing is like, Umbrella Corporation makes sense for them, right? They're able to appoint like a CEO of Facebook, able to appoint a CEO of like Instagram, all this type of stuff. And Zuck could basically free up his time and not like fucking like dive bomb at these goddamn like hearings and stuff where he's always like really shitty. And then the third thing is like the concept of the metaverse actually like makes sense. It's really like your online identity, right? Like all of us have friends like, yo, Deet, you're my homie now. Like after talking this podcast, I've never met you in real life, right? Like we're online friends. Like you don't know anything about me, right? But we are friends like in real life. And I have my online identity. And I think that there should be something that follows me around on my online identity. And I don't think the metaverse is a specific place. There's a tweet by this guy, Sean Booty, about this. And it's not a place.
Yo, he's
like
dope too.
Yeah, Sean Booty is great. One of his friends is one of our investors. But
dope,
anyway,
like damn, that's
sick. But he talks about how it's like a moment in time, right? It's a moment in time.
Yeah, I saw all this tweet. Yeah.
It's like it's essentially a moment in time. Yeah. It's like essentially a moment in time where like your digital presence and your digital assets mean more to you than your physical, right? And that already has passed for a lot of people, a lot of young people too. And the metaverse isn't like one place. It's about your identity following you behind like all the different trail of apps that you use, right? Like on Discord, you have like some identity that should probably follow you around everywhere else that you want to use that identity. Maybe you have multiple, maybe you have like a pseudonymous type of thing, but the metaverse really just means that you have like your fucking wallet or your backpack or whatever. And no matter what place you go to, that follows you around. And you look at like fucking skins in Fortnite and that type of stuff, right? Like people have like a ton of incentive to like have this as their identity, right? Like, and that's really what I think the purpose of Metaverse is, or like Meta is. And I think it's a good move.
Going off the skins off Fortnite real quick though, like, okay, I get it in terms of gaming, right? Like there's, you know, random loot boxes or pay to, you know, loot boxes where you get a skin that's like super sought after, right? And it's in game, right? And you show it off like in game. But like, and I'm all for video games and all that stuff, but I don't get the concept of kind of having a virtual self. To me, it's kind of like a loss of reality where it's like, hey man, gaming is one.
I'm old too, man. Like,
but like I think what he's trying to say is like
they want that.
I think you're trying to just tie in like, you know, your LinkedIn side of things, like professional side of things, then you have your Instagram side of things, your social side of things, and into one concise thing. And that's what the metaverse is. You know, it's like,
or not even necessarily, right? Like you can have all sorts of pseudonyms, but your social identity doesn't have to be discrete based on all the different random bullshit that you use, right? Like it should be able to connect through different things. And that's really what they're proposing with this metaverse. That's really about it, in my opinion. And that all just,
so what do you, sorry,
it's like this one interconnection. So like you want to take all your stuff, you want to take your outfit, you want to take all your like NFTs, you want to take all your like bags, everything you have in the metaverse, and say you're in like Facebook's metaverse, but say you want to hop over to like another person's like metaverse, all those essential items that you have accumulated and own and like represent you, you're able to just like carry those over.
Yeah. So
it's not like you're taking like you go from one app and then you exit and go to another app and now you have like all these different stuff in there, right? And you lost everything from the old app. It's essentially everything always is carrying, like you're carrying them everything around with you.
That's exactly
everything's interconnected.
Right? Like if you look at traditional tech, right? Like if you're like a World of Warcraft or some bullshit like that, right? Like everything that you get in that game is relegated directly to that game and owned by that game.
Yeah.
Right? With blockchain, you basically have the ability for everyone to just verify with blockchain of everything they own. So no matter where they go, you could just be like, yo, these are your items, or this is your ownership. This is who you are in some sort of way. And that's not owned by any company.
So you can take your like axe from Minecraft and go over to World of Warcraft.
Yeah, but I get that, but there's like, I don't get the point of it. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't give a fuck if my picture's on Instagram and it's getting transferred over to another app or something, right?
But I feel like you would enjoy this because game and everything.
We're hella early in the space, right? And like gaming is one of like the most easy, like, you know, parallels that I could draw about.
Yeah.
But really it comes down to things a lot more further down the road. Like,
I agree. I don't games. I don't look at it that way. I look at it like, yo, this is like KV games. So that's what I'm saying.
Because I don't want I don't want my reality to be a game like that. That's what I'm saying. Like,
no, yeah, I don't give a fuck. No, but it's really more so about this, right? Like, if my professional identity is tied on blockchain and verified that, like, hey, I worked for this individual.
KV don't want all the shorty trouble following.
Yeah, that's hella funny.
KV's so uncomfortable right now.
He's like, fuck. He's like, fuck. My employer's gonna like refer to me as like smokes a lot of weed 420 on the pod.
I agree with what KV's saying. Like, you know, like the LinkedIn side of things, you know, you have your professional like clout in a way, and then
my
the
thing is like that's actually a benefit, right? You could separate out your professional identity from your social one. Even in this, you could just have a pseudonym for it, right? But in a professional sense, I could prove, hey, I produced exactly this for these people, and these are the actions that I took for it. It's replicated on the chain, and I could just be pre-approved for whatever job I want because that identity follows me around everywhere else.
So is it just like an accelerated background check? Is that what you're like talking about?
Accelerating background check, resume that's verifiable.
Yeah,
coding tests, right? Like right now, fucking industry around coding tests is bullshit. Like, why would you have to work like goddamn 40 hours a week in order to just interview for places and write your resume and do all this type of stuff? If that is validated on chain and follows you wherever you go, all that stuff is not necessary anymore, right? Like, and there's a ton to be built in this space and there's a ton to be done, but that's like kind of like at a high level what the concept is. It's verified.
Yeah, I think I agree with what you're saying and Harvey's saying, and then I agree with like augmented reality. I think what I don't agree with is virtual reality. I don't think virtual reality is the way.
Augmented reality is fire, yo. I just want to be like fucking Iron Man and just have holograms pulling up.
The hardware has a lot of time to go, man.
Zuck says 3 to 5 years. 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, they just say these things, yo. Like it's never on time.
Yeah. But no, dude, Zuck executes like no other, man.
Yeah,
like,
we've been moving at light year speed. You guys have to like understand how far society has evolved. Like going from like 1900 and 1950, and then from 1950 to like 2000, and now like 2000, 2020. Yeah. You look at those like
Harvey, what happened? What happened?
Insane.
What happened in those increments?
Like not much evolvement happened from like 1900s, like 1950. Like people are still like
this man doesn't
like barely.
This man doesn't.
Industrial revolution, then technical revolution, right?
Facts.
If you look at like most of the society of humans, we were at a stagnant pace. It's only through the advent of agriculture that we were able to like actually grow civilizations. And civilizations actually were at a
agriculture was like one of the big movements.
Agriculture.
Okay, you guys start reading, dog.
Oh, no, Harvey's right, man. Props to this homeboy, right? Like
this is like
first
no,
was
this
the
is the book,
dude.
Yo, he's just repeating you, man. He's just
bro. He said it first, bitch. What the fuck?
What's the book I'm thinking of? It's like it's the orange cover,
Sapiens,
like Sapiens, yeah, fire book.
Yeah, I haven't actually read it. I need to. It's like the tech bros Bible, right? Like every tech bro reads that shit. That's what I've heard. But anyway, really? Yeah, like the biggest book. Yeah, the biggest revolutions in humanity were agricultural revolution, industrial revolution, and technological revolution, and basically all of them made growth like an exponentially higher like rate, right? So if you look at those were really just the unlockers of like our culture and society.
See, I mean, I know this is like the next step forward because from like let's just think about the last 2 decades. I think the one thing that made everything super revolutionary was like just the iPhone and just make the ease of access. They just can continuously upgrading it and stuff like that. Just computing power. Yeah, computing power. So outside of that, like ease of access, computing power, what has really happened in like the past 2 where it just like is that like the only?
Like if you're asking about what,
look at airplanes, look at transportation.
Also, just
everything's still the same. Like there's nothing new.
Okay,
like
but look at how kids are growing up now versus how we grew up. Right? Kids like literally their entire life is online. That was not the case for us. Mm-hmm. Right? Like that is like a massive cultural shift that is going to change the way that like humans like, act in society in the future. Right? Like the way that they're growing up is completely different. And that is literally a massive change from just 10 years before, right? Like when we were growing up. Right. And if you look at like 10 years before that, it was a lot different, but not to the same extent that it is now. Right. Stuff is evolving super, super fast. The way that we live our lives is changing super, super fast because of like how much technology is increasing. Right. Like, so it's just like,
I mean, my only concern is we're always just like kind of talking about, we always need to, accelerate it's just like exponential growth. What happens when it's not like exponential? Like we're always assuming it's just going to keep like going up and up and up. But I don't like, to me, it seems like we're getting stagnant because like I don't see too much exponential happening. And maybe it is happening on the computing side. And I acknowledge your point about like the social media aspect of it.
So I think you can only see it when you zoom out. Right. Like if you zoom into the day to day, it just feels like we're doing our regular thing. It feels like life is stable. It feels like everything. But dude, if you look at it at a macro level, things is changing incredibly fast. Look at how crazy life is changing for people in third world countries. Right. Where like, advent of like technology, advent of medicine has changed their lives drastically.
Yeah.
Right? If you look at
people say life is like, hard right now. Life is amazing. The world is in a great place right now.
It is
compared to like looking back in past history.
Also look at consumer trends. Right? Like the way that we communicate, like, dude, we're on a fucking Zoom call. Imagine this 5 years ago. Nobody fucking used Skype, right? Like
we would be on Uvu.
Yeah, we'd be on Uber or some bullshit like that. Like nobody used it. Like, and now we're able to communicate in this type of way. And that only happens because stuff grows so fast. Think about it 20 years ago. There's no chance that we'd even be able to like be as close as we are now, right? Like because we wouldn't have the ability to stay in contact with each other that much. We would have like been drinking buddies and talking and stuff like that. But then after that, it would have been hard to like stay in contact to the same extent that we have this at this point. And that's only been possible because of how fast stuff is changing.
I think in our lifetime, it's going to continue to just be exponential. Like, it's going to keep going up. I don't think we see the down. I don't think we'll live to see the downfall.
It's going to maintain this rate because everything is getting democratized. Everyone in the world, or not everyone, but a lot more people in the world have access to this technology, access to this computing power, and access to be able to write code to like make things. And with that many more people having the ability and the opportunity to do it, that much more things will get built, and that much more things will like improve society, right? And that's just like how things are going. I mean, things might go Black Mirror as hell, like Kala Shisha, but it's going to be.
So where do you guys see this like going? Like this metaverse?
Yo,
like,
this is so interesting because KV and Lucky are like on two different things. I didn't know. I thought we were all on the same like perspective on this shit, but like I didn't realize you guys are on like two different fronts.
I think KV and Lucky's like perspective is actually the very common one. Like I think most people have that type of.
I thought they were more on this side. I'm kind of like taken aback.
No, wait. Okay, so this is my thing, right? Okay, I'm agreeing with augmented reality and whatever you guys said. I don't agree with virtual reality. I think if I were ever into like virtual reality or anything, eventually, like if the metaverse expands, we each have a like virtual reality, like a virtual self of ourselves or whatever, you know, like an avatar or something.
That is already the case for stuff, but go on.
Yeah, but I think I would want it to where like eventually like our body becomes modified to where we like just like the way we're moving as our avatar moves. You know what I'm saying? Like
just heading towards like the movie WALL-E.
Yeah, it's gonna be WALL-E type of shit. No, I don't think.
I think that's the only acceptable way for me to accept the virtual reality. I don't want to wear no fucking Oculus goggles. I don't want to wear fucking wristbands.
It's gonna be up to you.
Gonna be literally like just glasses, like just regular glasses.
Not even like glasses. Like it has to be built in me, man, or something like chip me up.
Fuck that. Hell no.
Fuck that. I agree.
I've already decided I'm not taking part of the metaverse. I'm just gonna capitalize on the metaverse.
Yeah, that's a good way. No, but I mean, to be fair, you are already by having an Instagram.
Yeah, we all essentially are living exactly by having a cell phone. Yeah.
Like here's my thing, right? I think it's just gonna be a separation of digital versus like physical, right? Like physical, you're gonna have a certain life, and digital is gonna be most of your life, and that's how things are gonna work, right? Especially our professional lives. Like if you think about this from like a macro level, if you think about our dads and like the people that came before them who were like farmers or whatever in India, they will look at what our dads did and be like, yo, that's just play. And just like us, for our kids, we're going to look at the things that they do for work and we're going to be like, that just seems like play. Like fucking vloggers and stuff like that. That doesn't seem like play to me. But down the road, like if there is a society, there is a world I could see. I don't know if this is going to happen. There's a world that I could see where a bunch of people are micro influencers and they're just like vlogging for their living every day. That would, to me, look like they're just bullshitting around and playing all day. But hey, if they're actually making money and it's a lot of hard work, then fuck it. That's the new way to make a society. And like times change real quick, man.
So, I mean, I'm not what KB is saying. I don't think I'm like on par with like scared of virtual reality or don't want to be in there. This just seems eerily familiar to what Clubhouse was, like where like people think this like a new I
was a Clubhouse hater from day one.
Yeah, no, that's how I saw like I don't see like the downstream potential of this. I acknowledge like what you're saying, you know, you want to have your personal avatar, you know, it's accelerated, you know.
But it's not like you're having a personal avatar. It's not like you're just for fun, right? Like say you have like employees right in India, right? Like rather than hopping on a Zoom call with them or like being on the phone.
Dude, I don't like, okay, maybe this is just my ignorance at play. Cause I think there's still going to be some semblance of like this face to face. But
no, what I'm saying is that you can like go to and have like a meeting and you can send your like hologram and have a meeting there.
What's the difference between us doing that versus now? Like I think this is much better than doing that virtual thing because at least I see what your body.
Because you're there like with them. You're like legit.
No, you're not. Like you're still virtual. Like that's what I'm saying. What are you talking about, dog? You're not.
Yeah, you're virtually in there, but like they're trying.
We're virtually in there right now. We're virtually now.
I can't touch you, right? I can't like feel you.
Why you want to touch you?
Harvard's missing that nipple, bro. He's missing that
avatar don't want to touch you.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. They're trying to take it to a point where like you can actually like feel pressure when you're actually in a room with somebody else, like and say like you touch them or give them.
Have you ever seen Ready Player One?
You can like physically, feel their handshake.
So my point about this is like I think that there needs to be a logical separation from metaverse and that virtual reality land that Homeboy is talking about. Right?
And now a quick word from our sponsors. Have you thought about starting a podcast but didn't know where to begin? If so, I'm here to tell you about this free tool called Anchor. Anchor allows you to create and edit your podcast from both your phone and the computer. On top of that, it distributes your podcast to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many other locations, so you don't have to do it manually yourself. And if you thought that wasn't enough, it also allows for monetization, so you can actually make money from your podcast. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. It's everything you need to make a podcast. Now let's get back to the show.
I think that that's like a cool way to think about things, but I don't think it's going to be like that at all, right? Like virtual reality has a long way to go, and down the road, I have no idea what will happen to it. But the ownership of your assets and having stuff that follows you around, no matter what online experience you're in, I think that's going to be here to stay. And that can be logically separated from like the metaverse stuff. Yeah, Deesh, you were about to say something.
Yeah. So I've been a little bit quiet because I don't know a lot about this metaverse stuff, but in all these movies, doesn't it freak you out a little bit? Like the long-term psychological effects of like things not being real. I mean, the fact that the human connection is slowly getting broken down, and it's okay to just say happy birthday over a phone call or something. And be like that counts instead of. I mean, no, I'm not saying it's like a bad idea. I'm just saying, like,
of course. No, so
it isn't as human as like, you know, like making a trip or something.
He's shitting on you, man.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm
not trying to shit on the app. I'm fucking around. I use it
your app sucks, bro.
Yeah, bro. Come over here. Let's fucking square up, bro. But so my opinion about this is, like right now we have like a pretty clear distinction between our physical lives and our digital lives. Having digital lives work in this type of a way does not necessarily mean that our physical lives are going to suffer. And I think that us as a society are going to have to figure out a way in order to actually be fulfilled in our physical lives. And that's going to be a huge place for people to build businesses and to like be entrepreneurs and basically build that in-person connection. Just because like your online experience is going to go towards a metaverse does not mean that like, you know, your physical life is going to suffer because of it. It might like just have like a different relationship with it, but it doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to have to take away from your physical life in order to like live this digital life. Right now, we already fucking live a digital life. We live a digital life. We're on our fucking computers all day. We're doing all this stuff. We're like recording podcasts. We're working on the computer. We're our like online identity is on the computer, all that type of stuff. But we still have physical lives. We still have physical connections. All I'm saying is like your digital life is going to change in the way that like it all interacts with each other. You can still have your physical life. And yeah, long-term psychological effects, I think they're terrible, right? Like I am a big hater of like Facebook, TikTok, all this type of stuff. You know, I spend too much time on it. Like I like
I don't know, bro. I see the bigger picture you're trying to paint, and I just see like nothing of substance in it. Because like to me, right now we already have that. You guys are trying to say, you know, just trying to centralize it into one unit. You have your Instagram, you have your LinkedIn, and it's your one piece that identifies you. The only aspect that I can see where it's valuable in the long run is like verification, like ease of verification, you know, like blockchain.
Source of truth.
Yeah, source of truth. That I 100% agree with, but to the point where.
But that also might just be your ignorance speaking and like.
Yeah, no, I know that's just my cynicism at play. Like it's just like the view I had with Clubhouse. I'm like, how is this fucking different from a goddamn FaceTime group call or Zoom? This is still the same. They're trying to make it seem like it's some.
Because I mean, people probably had the same perception about the phone, and like when the phone came out and it was used just as like listening to music, and like you could barely go on the internet, you could like barely send a text message, right? And like look at what the evolution the phone had. Like back when we used to use a phone, did you ever envision a phone giving us the amount of capability and ability that it gives us now? You probably never saw that coming.
Yo, but truth be told, like I would love if this exponential curve just stopped. Like this is comfortable as is. Like I don't need more exposure to the digital
I'm trying to go to Mars, yo.
I mean, you can go to Mars, bro. That's not like
that's not related.
He's gonna go to Mars in the metaverse, man. He's gonna put on his Oculus right now and go to Mars.
But Harvey, think about this, right? Like, say you said some like head ass shit in like 2013, and like it's in your Facebook archive. Now it's linked in your Twitter, your Instagram, and you're linked.
Kevin Hart.
Yeah, you're fucked. You're fucked.
Right. So I mean, like. You can separate this as your professional and like your digital identity as much as possible, but like the more you like get like involved in this metaverse shit, like the more people are going to be digging at you, and like that's going to fuck people up more than anything.
I agree.
Like,
I definitely think it's going to be harmful for society, because I feel like a lot of people are very weak and they're just going to get too sucked into it. And
it's not a question of weak. It's like we're human. You only think about like what's happening in your day to day most of the time. I mean, you can zoom out. Like that was a great phrase. Like you can zoom out and like kind of analyze your life as a whole, how you evolved. But like every day, you're still kind of like you have your goals and like you have to hit all those milestones. You're not thinking back to like, okay, like let me just make sure that my digital identity is like all clean. Like, did I hit all of these checkpoints? It's like that. It's literally like a Black Mirror.
I fully agree with you. I fully agree with you. It's some kala shisha, bro. Like, it's like, it's some like bullshit ass like stuff.
That's like, black magic for the white viewer.
No, Black Mirror.
That's Black Mirror. Kala Jadu is black magic. I agree with that, man. Like, and society amplifies you for all the positives and negatives of your life, and everything else doesn't matter, right? And if the wrong negatives are brought up, you're fucked. And if society views that in the wrong way or puts it out of context, you're fucked. And I agree, that's going to be something terrible that we need to figure out.
I just see. I mean, the dystopian stuff doesn't scare me as much because I think I'm going to be fine because I had this like, it sucks for the younger generation. For me, it doesn't fucking matter because I think we had we had the separation where we like lived our lives. We went outside, played around with each other as kids. Now these kids are all just super virtual and shit. Yeah, no, everything's Minecraft. The only reason why I don't think it's going to be as massive as like what you guys are like Rinku is at least saying is there. It doesn't improve anything that we already have, except for like the verification process.
Let me say this, right? Zoom back 10 years ago, and what would you have said about your childhood and like your parents talking about looking at Fortnite? Would they ever say that like kids are going to be doing this for all their time, and that's going to be like just normal? They wouldn't. They would be
Mhm.
saying the exact same thing. And like right now, this is basically where the trend is going. Like kids' entire life is
I mean,
digital.
if entertainment is tied to it 100%, I can see this like going off. Like if it's solely, no, not solely. I guess it's going to amalgamate like
No,
all these
I
different factors.
actually agree with that. Like, so the thing is like entertainment and all industries are tied to it, right? Artists have like, I mean, look, if authors had ownership of all of their publication rights, all of like their work, and the ability to talk to their fans directly and have people contribute to their work, that would be amazing. Right now, publishing houses like fucking destroy artists like revenue streams. They destroy the entire creative process and they put them through a bunch of bullshit loops. If you're able to decentralize that and take the publishers out of the equation, that would be amazing for the industry. Right. Same thing like I was talking about with carbon earlier. Same thing I was talking with all these types of industries like art and all that. Right. Like there are all these central parties that exist just for the sake of distributing things which don't need to anymore. And if you're looking at that from that perspective, this is getting a little bit away from the metaverse, but more from like crypto in general. That's kind of what it empowers and it enables. Right.
Yeah, but the bigger players are getting involved, like Nike and Adidas,
Nike,
like they're doing the digital sneakers.
Yeah, they are.
Like I'm the person applying for those jobs, the 3D like artists and stuff. So like I know.
I can't wait to get a pair of Jordan 1s on the fucking metaverse for $300, man. Like
yo, but people are gonna do that. People are gonna try to like the digital world.
Harvey, if I go hiking in the metaverse and if I go hiking in the metaverse and I virtually sprain my virtual ankle, will you virtually like be my virtual podiatrist and virtually fix it?
I definitely see like the entertainment aspect. Like look back to like Fortnite, right? How they had that. Well, I think it was Travis Scott, right? They held like a Travis Scott or a Marshmallow.
Yo, that shit blew my mind. Like I don't even play.
Everybody pulled up and they're like just interacting. And it's like that's like a dope experience for like people honestly, to take part in.
I don't even play Fortnite or anything like that. I didn't go to that concert, but as soon as I saw the videos, I was like, holy fuck, this is gonna be the next thing. Like, dude, there's
they've been doing in-game
I don't play video games. I never played video games. I'm not into that shit. But like, I still follow this shit. Like, I mean, I see where
because having that type of an experience, having that type of a crazy ass experience where there's a fucking giant Travis Scott, like
I'd still think the physical is going to it's going to be like more 60% than like metaverse. Like if anything, digital is going to be.
Yo, how much are you on your phone right now? Like, what's your like?
I was literally about to say, dude, it's already the fucking case, dude. You work as like a coder.
What's your screen time like on your phone? Do you have it on?
Yeah, like 7 hours.
That's reckless.
There you go. That is your answer right there, dude. For a living, you write code, right?
Yeah.
Your entire presence is digital then. Like you like what you do on a day to day is you go on your computer and you live a digital life.
Oh no,
I get a construction job.
No, I get that. I get that, but there's just such a segmentation. Like it's segmented. It's like at the end of the day, yes, I most my job is I just sit in my room and write code, and then
hey homie, I still go Snapchats every day, bro. Like that's a digital life right there.
No, I get that, but it's still me. It's not through some sort of avatar. Like I guess we're all kind of getting there. I guess
avatar.
I guess it is. I guess if you use like those face, those like skin modification thing. Yeah,
exactly, dude. All of it, dude.
That's true.
Being a digital life doesn't necessarily mean it's an avatar. Being a digital life means it's distributed through the internet and digital, right? Okay. Right now, you are already living a digital life. I am living a digital life too.
Like you have different personas and like different. Like I don't act the same way I act on Instagram that I do on Snapchat. Snapchat's for my more reckless behavior, right? Instagram's for like my more like posh behavior and like trying to show out and shit.
Samraaj, let me ask you this, right? So this whole like from like your understanding of the metaverse and all that shit, is this going to be one of those like join or die type things? Like if you don't want to partake and like keep your lives separate or just like, I mean, are you going to fall behind the society?
I don't know, man. I actually have no idea, but I mean, like, I do think that you will fall behind in society if you don't adopt digital in some way, shape, or form. Whether that's specifically metaverse, I don't know. Only time will tell that. But like even today, if you completely reject everything digital, you're kind of fucked, right? Unless you're in a specific area where you can only apply physical skills, or like in boonies where you could just be like a construction worker or like a woodworker or something like that and make a living for yourself that way. But if you're in any like type of a city where you want to like follow the times, you have to be digital, or else you're gonna be left behind. And I think that is going to continue to be the case. And whether metaverse expedites that or not, I have no idea yet.
Damn, there should be a thing. Too much ambition is not a good thing. I want this stuff that like I definitely like. I worked in construction, so like I saw like fruits of like physical labor and like
gigs in my life
stuff.
Too.
Like it's cool. Like
dude,
it's cool to
tiring
see.
As hell. and stuff.
Oh yeah, I hated it. I'm not doing that ever again.
It was fulfilling though. I remember I worked a couple of gigs way back in the day. I remember I helped dig a gigantic hole in the back of a jewelry shop once. Like I have like some friends that are general contractors, and they like hired me to come on and like fucking jackhammer the back of this jewelry shop to put the safe down there. Man, that like this was when I was way younger, and like that is when I understood like the point of those Mexican restaurants that have like the gigantic ass portion, because I would like work all day on that site, and then I would go and like get the like fucking gigantic plate and like destroy all of it at once. I was like, man, this feels good.
Yeah.
No, Deej, so go on to your point, like construction, right?
My apologies.
So I was more on labor, but
I want to like grow on this, right? So like, yeah.
Imagine you could hammer in the metaverse, you know?
Yeah, no, imagine if you could draw shit and put up things like with the tip of your fingers, and you're just like, putting, like will that not give you the same amount of fulfillment? You don't think it will, or will you think it won't?
I mean, for me, like one of the things that really turned me off to construction is the liability aspect, right? Like anything I'm designing in like CAD or something, I'm not stamping off, but like I could become liable if there was an accident, you know? And for me, you know, at 22 years old, that was terrifying. After whatever 2+ years, like I got a little bit more desensitized to it. But imagine like, okay, you can virtually simulate, you know, like let's say crane lifts. I can design a crane in 3D and like, you know, show it as a render. Like this is what it's supposed to be according to plan. It's the same thing with like the engineering drawings that we do. This is the limits. Like this is like the rules. This is our suggested lifts and all that stuff. Things can go wrong. And I think when you implement if you want to do a digital visualization of it, you can only do it as a marketing thing or like, you know, like,
well, so that's the thing.
I don't think you can do it as like something that like would.
My point is like bridging of physical and digital assets is never the best, in my opinion. Like people are trying to bring real estate and stuff like that into the digital world. Like people just be like, no, like it's a MySpace, whatever, right? Like it doesn't make any sense. So like digital assets and digital like buildings are going to tend to be inherently digital from here on forth, right? Like there's no point in redesigning like a crane or anything like that, or houses in like a digital sense, because like those are inherently physical things. So like in my opinion, they're inherently physical. The difference is like when you need to do like digital designs of something that will be fabricated in real life, like a crane, like you were talking about. Yeah. So I think that's different, but hey man, you can't say that it doesn't like expedite, and it allows you to apply more leverage, right? You design a crane that works well once, it could be infinitely replicated across like all like the fucking crane builders in the planet, and theoretically make that much more impact. It's that much more leverage. Whereas in the past, you're only tied to how many things you could produce individually yourself. Right. So
that's a good point.
That's like, that's the entire thing about leverage, right? Like, it's another Neville thing that I follow is there's 4 types of leverage in the world. There's capital, labor, which are traditional leverage, which has been around since like the beginning of time. Labor is like, you know, you could just like go and pick berries yourself, or you could use your judgment to direct a bunch of people to pick berries. That's like getting people's permission to like, hey, I trust your judgment, I'll work for you. Other thing is like giving people capital investing. And modern day has unlocked 2 forms of permissionless leverage: media and code. Media, you could record a podcast once and it gets distributed to millions of people. Otherwise, you would have to be like fucking touring the country speaking to them. Like it allows you to have leverage to your decisions and like your judgment or whatever. And the same thing applies to code, right? Code you write one time and it can be replicated across millions of devices all at once. And this basically allows you to build things yourself that are replicated across so many different times and apply leverage to all of your decision making. And what you're talking about, building something digitally like a crane, you could replicate that millions of times and build a business out of just applying that leverage. And you didn't have to get anyone's permission for that. All you have to do is learn those hard skills yourself, right? And I think that's one of the things that makes amazing opportunity for people like us.
Imagine you know, what is it, like visualize something, right, Beach, and you know the metaverse whatever shows you like the stability of like that structure or whatever, like it shows you how long it'll last or whatever.
What are you asking?
wait. I'm saying like for construction or whatever, imagine you like build something right digitally, right? It's a 3D render.
Yeah.
And like, you know, in the metaverse whatever, it'll show you like the stability of like that architecture that you built. Eventually.
You can see it in like different environments. You can see it in like different phases. You can see how it like handles within like a snowstorm, and like you start like creating a snowstorm, or you can see.
I mean, they already have that though. I mean, they have plenty of programs. I mean, they have ANSYS like that came out of Pitt basically. Like John Swanson made ANSYS like that simulation software, but like it's even with that, I'm pretty sure like you have to do so much physical testing, see if it actually works. You can't just go off of that because that's
you're
only
putting yourself on the line, man. You're putting yourself on the line for any type of a thing where there's outsized returns. There's always outsized risks, right? You're exposing yourself to the vulnerability of everything failing and being liable for it, right? So yeah, it's the case with basically anything you could do in this, and mitigating risk is very difficult.
My hope would be that, for people who don't want to get on board with this, or they're not comfortable, and they don't have, I don't think they should be mandated to, whatever, that join or die mentality, but
I agree.
There should be those. Yeah. I mean, I don't know about that, but I'm not going to say anything about it. But anyway, but like, there should still be some of those career paths and shit that allow you.
Yeah, those career paths are always going to be there, right? Those career paths are always going to be there. You always need physical people, right? Your living spaces are always going to have to improve. There's always going to be a need for general contractors. There's always going to be a need for subcontractors. There's always going to be a need for laborers in that type of a way. It doesn't mean that everyone's identity is going to go for it. And I think that there's going to be less and less of a need for them going forward, because eventually production of robots and like autonomous, building and stuff like that, modular homes, it's going to eliminate the need for a lot of the subs in the market from a macro level over a long event horizon, right? There's going to be less need for that type of labor, and that's the type of role we're going towards, right? Just look at trucking, right? Trucking has started to be automated, and we're having autonomous trucks that are going across the country, and that is decimating small town economies, right? Like small town economies used to run on truck stops, right? Like if you look think about a town in the middle of bumfuck off like Route 66 or whatever, right? A lot of their local economy gets capital from truckers stopping at the truck stops, or stopping at the restaurants over there and stopping and doing all types of stuff there. That's how their economy runs. If trucking becomes automated, these people are decimated until they figure out an alternative. And there has to be some sort of an economic incentive. And I think that the opportunity that code and distribution allows those people to actually pick up.
Yeah, I think Lex Friedman had talked about this, right?
Friedman. Mm-hmm. I think so. Friedman. Friedman.
Yo, I
man,
can't deal.
Double fried or triple fried, bro? Salt or what?
Yeah,
You're breaking up.
Yeah. He broke up, bro. He's the fucking metaverse glitch, bro. You got thrown into a black hole in the metaverse.
Dude, all I have to say is
this man can't pronounce words, bro. This man can't pronounce words.
All I have to say is, dude,
he's a contradiction to how we pronounce it. He's still...
I'm more so thinking about myself. I feel like it so much legacy still at play before this even gets hands on. We're going to be 50, 60 before it fully gets
I disagree, immersed. Man. I disagree. Look at our tax system.
We're going to be 35.
Dude, look at how quickly everything evolved. You could have said the exact same thing about the tax system before TurboTax came in, right? You could have said the same thing about smartphones, exactly how people communicated. There's so much legacy bullshit before that all took off. The rate by which the stuff is adopted has shortened over time, and it will continue shortening. It's that's a definition of an exponential growth, right? So I think it will happen a lot sooner, and we're going to be living a different lives very, very soon over here. I'm living a fucking completely different life than I did 5-10 years ago. Maybe that's because I grew up a lot, but just inherently about how I manage my digital identities and what I do on a day-to-day basis has changed a shit ton.
No, I was going to say, drop a knowledge bomb on us, just to something like a quote or something to end this, wrap this up or whatever. Feel free to plug yourself and close out with whatever, but
follow me. My name is the Bathman. So the BATHMAN _ on Instagram, on Twitter. My last name is Bath, so it's a little bit of a pun right there. In terms of knowledge bombs, man, the biggest thing that I could say is find peace within yourself, right? Peace is the best way to live your life. And if you overthink bullshit like this, bullshit like the metaverse, all that type of stuff, you'll put yourself at a pace of motion at all times where you're not able to relax. The best advice that I could give to anyone is understand how to be peace and just fucking sit back and drink your cha and live your life. That's it.
All right, thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Brown Boy Chronicles. We are available on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Check us out on Instagram at The Brown Boy Chronicles, and feel free to email us with any questions or stories. The email is brownboychronicles1@gmail.com. See you next time.